From singing on cracked sidewalks with nothing but a second-hand guitar, to standing on the brink of music's biggest stage, the Grammys. This is the incredible, almost unbelievable journey of Jamal Roberts, a story that proves dreams can grow anywhere if you have the courage to chase them. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at a street performer the same way again. As a reporter who has seen countless musicians come and go, I can say that very few stories have captured my attention the way Jamal Roberts has. From the cracked sidewalks of a quiet small town to the brink of international acclaim, his journey reads like a modern-day folk legend. I first encountered his name in a grainy social media clip that someone casually uploaded. A tourist, they later told me, showing Jamal strumming his battered guitar with a voice that seemed to pierce through the noise of the internet. It was not just his tone, warm, soulful, almost haunting, but the sincerity in every lyric he sang that stopped me in my tracks. On that street corner, in front of a modest coffee shop, he wasn't chasing fame or pandering for likes. He was simply sharing his music with whoever cared to listen. His audience then was a mix of hurried commuters glancing at their watches, curious visitors snapping photos, and the occasional kind soul who tossed loose change into his open guitar case. Yet there was a spark in him, something unpolished but undeniable, that made you think, this kid is going somewhere. Now, with industry whispers suggesting he might be in the running for a Grammy nomination, that somewhere seems closer than ever, and the world is beginning to realize what those early street corner spectators already knew. Jamal Roberts is a rare talent with a story worth telling. Digging into Jamal's past, the picture that emerges is one of grit and perseverance forged in the fires of hardship. Born into a working-class family, he grew up in a modest, weather-worn home on the edge of town, where every dollar was stretched to its breaking point. His father worked an unpredictable string of odd jobs, mending fences one week, hauling boxes for delivery companies the next, while his mother tended a small stall in the local market, selling fresh vegetables to help cover the bills and keep food on the table. Extravagances like music lessons or high-end instruments were out of the question. What Jamal did have was a home filled with encouragement and an unwavering belief in the value of hard work. He often tells stories of sitting at the kitchen table as a boy, listening to his parents talk about their day while he quietly sketched out song lyrics on scraps of paper, dreaming of far-off stages he'd only seen on TV. Music for him wasn't just a pastime, it was an escape, a safe space where the world's noise faded away and his own voice took center stage. And while many in his neighborhood were resigned to the idea that dreams that big didn't come true for people like them, Jamal refused to let go of his. That defiance, the quiet determination to prove otherwise, would become the bedrock of his career. The pivotal moment in Jamal's early life came at the age of 9, when his mother returned home one evening carrying an object that would change everything: a beat-up, second-hand guitar she'd found at a flea market. Its strings were rusty, the tuning pegs stiff, and the body bore the scars of years of use, but in Jamal's eyes, it was a treasure beyond measure. With no teacher to guide him, he dove headfirst into learning, relying on sheer persistence and the crackling sounds from their old kitchen radio. He'd spend hours sitting cross-legged on the floor, plucking clumsy notes until they formed the melodies of the songs he loved, and within months he began creating his own. Those early compositions were simple yet heartfelt, often inspired by the people and places around him. Neighbors struggling to make ends meet, the unspoken affection between his parents, and the restless yearning for something more. Friends and family soon came to know him as the kid with the guitar, always ready to provide the soundtrack to a neighborhood gathering or a slow Sunday afternoon. What struck people most wasn't technical perfection. It was the way his voice carried an emotional weight far beyond his years, a quality that would later become his signature and the reason strangers would stop in their tracks just to listen. Jamal's transformation from a local street musician to an internet phenomenon happened almost by accident, and as someone who has followed his career closely, I can attest to the almost cinematic nature of that turning point. 4 years he performed on the same stretch of sidewalk, a spot he'd come to think of as his unofficial stage, enduring sweltering summers, biting winters, and the occasional wave of indifference from passers-by. His performances were as much about resilience as they were about music, showing up day after day no matter the weather, no matter the crowd. Then came the moment of serendipity. A tourist passing through recorded a snippet of him performing a soulful original and uploaded it to social media. The video struck a chord instantly, amassing millions of views in days, shared and reshared by people who felt an inexplicable connection to the authenticity in his performance. Suddenly, Jamal found himself at the center of a global conversation. His Instagram following skyrocketed, His YouTube channel gained tens of thousands of subscribers, and his tip jar was replaced by online donations accompanied by messages from fans in cities he had never visited. In a matter of weeks, he went from a face in the crowd to a name people wanted to know more about. When the buzz around Jamal's viral moment reached its peak, it was only a matter of time before the music industry came knocking, and from my vantage point as a reporter covering up-and-coming talent, I knew this would be the true test of whether his story was just another fleeting internet fad or the beginning of something lasting. The call came from an independent record label known for discovering raw, unpolished voices and helping them find their footing in a competitive market. They offered him studio time, real professional studio time, along with the guidance of seasoned producers who had worked with chart-topping artists. For Jamal, who had never stepped foot in a recording booth, the prospect was as intimidating as it was exciting. There were contracts to review, creative visions to discuss, and 100 small decisions that could make or break his future. Yet, in typical Jamal fashion, he approached it with humility and a quiet confidence, leaning on his instincts rather than chasing trends. He left behind the street corners that had been his stage for years, packed up his guitar, and stepped into a world where the stakes were higher, the opportunities greater, and the room for error much smaller. This was no longer about passing the time on a sidewalk. It was about proving that the voice which had captured millions online could hold its own in the fiercely competitive arena of professional music. But if Jamal thought that going viral was the hard part, he quickly learned that sustaining momentum in the professional music industry was a challenge of its own. The shift from street performer to signed artist brought with it a whirlwind of commitments. Early morning interviews, back-to-back recording sessions, endless promotional events, and the constant pressure to deliver something new that could match or exceed the magic of that first viral performance. He was now surrounded by a mix of believers and skeptics. Believers who saw in him the potential for greatness, and skeptics who dismissed him as a lucky break, unlikely to last beyond a single album cycle. Rather than buckle under the weight of those doubts, Jamal used them as fuel, pouring himself into songwriting sessions that stretched late into the night, experimenting with arrangements, and refusing to compromise the authenticity that had gotten him this far. He learned quickly that in an industry built on image and perception, staying true to yourself was both the hardest and the most valuable thing you could do. And though the transition came with its share of missteps and growing pains, Jamal emerged more focused than ever, determined to prove that his place in the spotlight was not an accident. It was earned. The culmination of months of intense work came in the form of Jamal's debut album, Sidewalk Dreams, a title that served as both a nod to his beginnings and a declaration of how far he intended to go. As a journalist, I had the privilege of attending a private listening session ahead of its release, and what struck me immediately was how deeply personal the record felt. Every track told a story, of nights spent under flickering street lamps, of strangers who paused just long enough to listen, of heartbreaks that cut deep but left behind lessons worth keeping. The production was intentionally minimal, allowing his voice and his lyrics to take center stage, and the result was a body of work that felt both intimate and universal. Critics praised its honesty, fans connected with its relatability, and within weeks, it climbed streaming charts in multiple countries. Several tracks were picked up for TV and film soundtracks, expanding his reach beyond the traditional music audience. For Jamal, the album wasn't just a career milestone, it was a tangible piece of proof that the boy with the second-hand guitar could create something that resonated on a global scale. The success of Sidewalk Dreams opened doors Jamal had once only dreamed of, and I watched as his calendar began to fill with bookings for music festivals and international showcases. His first major overseas performance took place at a renowned European summer festival, where he walked onto a massive stage in front of tens of thousands of people, a far cry from the dozen or so passers-by who had once been his audience. There was a moment just before the first chord rang out, when he paused to take it all in. The lights, the sea of faces, the hum of anticipation in the air. And then he played, not with nerves, but with the same grounded sincerity that had defined his earliest performances. The crowd responded in kind, swaying, singing along, and even holding up homemade signs with lyrics from his songs. Watching from the press area, I couldn't help but think that this was the moment where Jamal truly crossed the threshold from a promising newcomer to an artist of substance, one who could command a stage anywhere in the world and leave an imprint that lingered long after the last note faded. Now, with the year winding down, industry insiders are buzzing with speculation that Jamal Roberts might find his name among the nominees for the Grammy Awards in the Best New Artist category. While nothing is official yet, the chatter is impossible to ignore. His streaming numbers are strong, his live performances are consistently praised, and his debut album has made it onto several year-end best of lists. For Jamal, these rumors are both flattering and surreal. In interviews, he remains grounded, often deflecting the conversation back to his fans and the people who supported him when he was still an anonymous street performer. Yet you can see in his eyes that he's beginning to imagine what it might feel like to step onto that Grammy stage, guitar in hand, and know that every twist and turn of his unlikely journey has led to that moment. Whether the nomination comes or not, the fact that it's even being discussed is a testament to how far he's come and how deeply his story has resonated with the public. In the end, what makes Jamal Roberts' rise so compelling isn't just the music, it's the message embedded in every step of his journey. He's living proof that where you start doesn't have to dictate where you end up, and that authenticity has a way of cutting through the noise of an industry obsessed with image and hype. As a reporter, I've covered countless next big things that faded before they had a chance to make an impact, but Jamal feels different. He talks openly about his struggles, his mistakes, and the moments when he nearly gave up, using them as reminders to others that perseverance is often the deciding factor between a dream deferred and a dream realized. From the cracked sidewalks of his hometown to the possibility of walking the red carpet at the Grammys, Jamal's story has become a beacon for aspiring artists and dreamers everywhere. And as his star continues to rise, one can't help but wonder how many others might be inspired to pick up their own battered guitar and start strumming, believing that maybe, just maybe, their sidewalk dreams could take them somewhere extraordinary too. So, what part of Jamal's journey inspired you the most? The struggle, the breakthrough, or the possibility of seeing him on the Grammy stage? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to read them. And if you believe more people should hear stories like this, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and of course subscribe to this channel for more untold stories from the world of music and entertainment. Until next time, keep dreaming big, because you never know where your sidewalk might lead.